shooting by an ICE officer in Minneapolis last month sparked immediate protests. At the time, DHS said the officer fired in self-defense, hitting one suspect in the leg after they said he was attacked by multiple men.
What we saw was 3 individuals weaponize shovels and brooms and attack an ICE officer that had to defend himself.
But tonight, a stinging rebuke of 2 ICE officers from the acting director of the agency, who says they appear to have lied about the shooting of that Venezuelan man. Todd Lyons saying a joint review by ICE and the Department of Justice of video evidence has revealed that sworn testimony provided by 2 separate officers appears to have made untruthful statements, adding the unnamed officers have been immediately placed on administrative leave pending the completion of a thorough internal investigation and may face termination of employment as well as potential criminal prosecution. Julio Cesar Sosa Solis, who was shot in the leg, and Alfredo Alejandro Alhorna had been charged with assaulting federal officers. Tonight, those charges have been dropped. Tonight, an attorney for Sosa Solis says he is cooperating with an investigation into the shooting and, quote, determined to seek justice against the officer. Tom.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay
let's
updated
go
on
to the
breaking
next
news
video.
on the end.
Let's go to ABC.
Tonight, we have learned 2 ICE agents have been placed on administrative leave. They are now under criminal investigation, accused of lying about shooting a man during the immigration crackdown in Minneapolis. What the agents claimed and what prosecutors are now saying tonight. Here's Alex Perez.
Tonight, 2 ICE agents have been placed on administrative leave as federal authorities launch a criminal investigation to determine whether they lied about the shooting of a man that sparked violent protests in Minneapolis. The official narrative of that shooting collapsing. It happened 1 week after the fatal ICE shooting of mother of 3, Renee Good, an ICE agent shooting and wounding Venezuelan national Julio Cesar Sosa Solis. At the time, DHS accused Sosa Solis and another man of ambushing an agent, claiming Sosa Solis fled to a nearby home as they carried out a targeted traffic stop, alleging agents were attacked with a shovel and a broom handle. But an FBI affidavit casting doubt, suggesting Sosa Solis wasn't even in the car that was stopped. In this harrowing video, you can hear children crying as a woman tells a 911 dispatcher in Spanish that agents followed a man home and shot him in the leg when they tried to close the door. Federal prosecutors now say new evidence, including video, is materially inconsistent with the allegations in the affidavit. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons admitting 2 officers may have made, quote, untruthful statements. Those agents placed on administrative leave and prosecutors now dropping all charges against the men. In a statement, the family's attorney saying they're overjoyed, adding the charges against them were based on lies by an ICE agent who recklessly shot into their home through a closed door. All this just 24 hours after Border Czar Tom Homan announced an end to the ICE surge in Minnesota after the deadly shootings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy, and acknowledged the problems on the ground.
There were some issues here, and we address those issues. But I'm not going to sit here and say anybody did anything wrong.
And David, tonight those families are calling for the agents to be charged. ICE says there have been 37 investigations involving excessive force. 19 of those are still pending review. David?
Alex Perez with us.
So before we go to the next video, that's, you know, to get it from a different angle from CNN's point of view. So here's what we got. So here's what we know so far. The initial narrative of assault on officers was widely reported of DHS and ICE. Prosecutors later concluded that the evidence contradicted the narrative, right? So my question is, but hold on, 2 agents are being investigated. We know that. That's what we do know. And charges against the men involved were dismissed because the account didn't hold up in court. But here's my question though. Maybe I missed it. Where's the video at? At least we have something to go off of. Now, I'm not saying, now here's, let me be clear before I even say what I'm about to say. I'm not defending ICE on this situation here. Because if there's no video footage of the reason as to why you fired your gun and shot somebody in the leg, I can't believe that without the evidence. We need the evidence to show, to actually match up to what these ICE agents are saying. Because if there's some wrongdoing that he's done, or that those ICE agents have done, yes, you need to prosecute them to the furthest extent of the law. 100%. 110%. Because if those civilians weren't doing anything to you, and then that gives you no reason to fire off your weapon at all. So I need to see the video footage of it. I haven't seen the video footage of it, but that's what I'm saying on it right now. But here's also what still needs to be clarified. So exactly how the officer's sworn testimony differ from the actual evidence, meaning where's the video? The full details haven't publicly been released yet. So there's a reason why I haven't seen the video yet, right? Whether the officers intentionally misled investigators or simply misremembered events. I doubt they misremembered their events. Come on. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. All right. And 3, whether any disciplinary or criminal charges will ultimately be filed against the officers. Now, if they get found guilty, yeah, they should be charged to the furthest extent of the law. 1,000%. 1,000%. Right? And how this new evidence affects broader oversight of ICE use of force policies. Now, there's always bad apples. There's always bad actors in everything that we do. I'm not going to, because of the mistake of 2, I'm not going to blame the entire ICE. So I'm going to make sure I stand firm on that. Just as if you got a couple of bad cops who do some egregious shit, that doesn't mean that I'm going to deem all police officers as bad, right? Just as there are some shitty men in the military, right? But I'm not going to deem the entire military, every person that's in the military, as shitty people. I'm not going to do that. I'm not the kind of person that because I see 2 bad actors, that all of a sudden the entire group is bad. I don't do that. That's what I don't do. All right. So I want to be clear about that. So let's go ahead and go to CNN and see what they got to say about it.
Tonight, a pair of ICE agents are under investigation after being accused of lying about a shooting that happened of a man in Minneapolis. Last month, you might remember this story. The agents claimed that 2 men had attacked them with a broom and a shovel as they were carrying out an immigration operation. One of the men was shot in the leg by an officer. And when that happened, obviously it raised questions. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem came out and said it was, quote, an attempted murder of federal law enforcement. She accused the governor, Tim Walz in Minnesota, the mayor, Jacob Fry, of encouraging assaults against law enforcement. And also, the same day that she put out that statement, she was at the White House and said this about ICE agents in Minneapolis.
Every single action that our ICE officers take is according to the law and following protocols that we have used for years, that this administration has used, that the previous administration used. They are doing everything correctly.
Okay, well, given that, we've now learned the Justice Department has actually dropped charges against those 2 men. And in a turn of events, they are now being investigated because they are being accused of lying under oath about what happened. There's video evidence, apparently, that contradicts what they said actually occurred. And this is just the latest case where the initial description that we get from the Trump administration after a shooting like this has happened has fallen apart once all the facts have come out. Obviously, the highest profile examples of this, I don't have to remind you of, you remember it yourself. Renee Good, Alex Preddy, both accused of being domestic terrorists before we saw all the different video angles of what happened when they were killed at the hands of federal agents. There's also the case of Miramar Martinez in Chicago. Just this week, CNN obtained the body camera footage from October when the American citizen and school teacher was shot 5 times by a Border Patrol agent.
All right, we're fine now. All right, out of the car. Be advised, we've been struck.
Now, the Department of Homeland Security had initially said that Border Patrol law enforcement officers were ambushed by domestic terrorists that rammed federal agents with their vehicles. The FBI director posted, "Attack our law enforcement and this FBI will find you and bring you to justice." Once the evidence came out, federal prosecutors asked for that case to be dropped.
And as they were wrestling on the ground trying to detain this individual, 2 other men came out of that building and started attacking him with weapons and shovels and brooms. And as it was 3-on-1, the agent feared for his life and defensively had to take action.
Well, today, a judge dismissed charges against the 2, and 2 immigration officers are now under investigation. CNN's Priscilla Alvarez joins us with more. So what's the administration saying here?
Well, Anderson, it was the Justice Department that had filed a motion to dismiss these charges, which, as you said, have now been dismissed by this judge. But it is a significant development in what was a string of high-profile shootings where there were conflicting accounts from the federal agents as well as from the eyewitnesses. And in this case, as you mentioned, this occurred last month. It was after the shooting of Renee Good, where officials claim these two Venezuelan men had assaulted the federal agents, which is what led him to shoot one of them in the leg. You heard there from Secretary Noem that they had assaulted him with a shovel and with a broom, but both of these men had denied that. And in reviewing the video and in speaking with eyewitnesses, they found that there was nothing to support the agent's account of what transpired here, which is what now has led to this federal investigation into whether these officers had lied under oath. I want to read you a significant statement from the acting Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director, Todd Lyons. This is what he said today. He said, quote, "Today, a joint review by ICE and the Department of Justice of video evidence has revealed that sworn testimony provided by two separate officers appears to have made untruthful statements. Both officers have been immediately placed on administrative leave pending the completion of a thorough internal investigation. Lying under oath is a serious federal offense.
Yeah,
the U.S. Attorney's Office is actively investigating these false statements." He goes on to say that the officers may face termination of employment as well as potential criminal prosecution. Now, of course, Anderson, we have covered at length the moments in which there have been conflicting.
Yeah, if they got some wrongdoing and they aren't upholding the law like they're supposed to, yeah, put them niggas in jail. They out there firing off arms for no reason. Yeah, absolutely, 1000%. But again, just like I say with everything else, I'm not gonna judge you. I'm not gonna sit up here and convict you without the foolproof evidence. I'm not gonna do that just because the news said, but there's no evidence. I'm not gonna convict you in the court of public opinion, bro. I'm not gonna do that. I don't care how you feel. I don't care about y'all in this Trump derangement syndrome. I don't care about y'all in these Epstein files. I don't care about none of that shit. Listen, if you don't have the full-on evidence, if you don't have the proof, what you want them to do? Because the way that I look at it, I always try to put myself in the shoes of the people, right? What if that was you in a situation like that? Would you want people just because of the simple fact, hey man, they said that you did this, that, and the third. Now all of a sudden you got to go to jail now? All of a sudden you got to get convicted of something, then there's no evidence on it? Just because everybody in public opinion says that you got to go to jail now? This is what I'm saying, bro. This is the shit that blows my mind. This is the shit that throws me off and it pisses me off. It really does, bro.
Counts over the shooting of Renee Good as well as Alex Preddy, but certainly in some of these other instances. And this statement was notable because we were hearing from their boss, the acting director of ICE, who said that this review is ongoing now, and these officers may face termination as they determine whether they lied under oath over an incident that resulted in a shot fired at a man's leg.
How important is it to be able to trust what you are hearing about an official account from the Department of Homeland Security?
It's very important. It's important for our people to be able to trust their government. And obviously that, integrity and that trust has been completely thrown out the window under the Trump administration, from HHS to DHS, almost every single agency you can think of. The heads of those agencies aren't concerned with how we bring back integrity to our government and how we can ensure our people trust our government, but they just want to do the bidding of Donald Trump. And they also want to ensure that they're providing cover for everything they do, that they make zero mistakes, that everything that they do is perfect. And that's exactly what we've seen with Kristi Noem, that within minutes or seconds of these instances happening, she takes to social media to call these people domestic terrorists, when in every single instance that we've seen so far, there's been video unearthed that shows that in many cases the officers have lied. And I think it's obviously a huge disservice to our nation.
What other videos? What other videos did they lie about? Because we saw the Renee Good video, we saw the Alex Preddy videos, we saw that, and we saw what Alex Preddy was doing the week the week before he was on the live. No, we saw those videos. That's a whole different ball game. But we don't see the videos of these two individuals, that they claimed that were attacking federal officers. We don't see those videos. So then I would do the same thing. I would put those federal agents, those two federal ICE agents, in question, like, bro, you sure that actually happened? I don't have any video footage. What happened? Where's the the body cam footage? Where's all of that? Yes, so I will put that in question, 1,000%.
But when the people can't trust their government, that is a sign of a backsliding democracy, and it's part of the reason why people like Kristi Noem should not be in these positions anymore.
In the case of the men where they said they were attacked with an ambushed with a broom and a shovel, the Justice Department has dropped the charges. DHS says they're investigating these officers for lying under oath about this. They're facing potential criminal charges. If the administration said, well, look, this is how we corrected it, this is how we fixed it, what would you say to that?
I'd say it's not enough because we can't trust the administration to do this. We just can't trust them to investigate themselves because they've shown us time and time and again over the last over a year that they're not interested in justice and they're interested in covering their own asses every single point, from the Epstein investigation to ICE and DHS and what's going on. And it's part of the reason why one of our demands, we have to have external investigations of all these instances because they're microcosm, they're examples of how really the entire department is completely flawed right now under the leadership of Kristi Noem.
Who do you want to carry out those external investigations?
I think that this is not a normal time, and usually it is not for the United States Congress to go through every single thing. But I think, especially in instances of some of these more high-profile ones, I do think the United States Congress needs to open up investigations into some of these because, again, they are examples and microcosms that really expand out to what we're seeing across the entire country right now. And so I do think the Oversight Committee would be a committee to do that.
Obviously, ICE funding and the Department of Homeland Security funding overall has become a huge sticking point on Capitol Hill. They have $75 billion.
You said that's a transformer
for the next 4 years because of a bill legislation that's already passed. I think given that, some people might ask, how do you explain a vote that doesn't actually block that ICE funding because they already have it? It would block money to pay TSA agents, FEMA workers, Coast Guard members. I mean, obviously people that would be indirectly or directly affected, not intentionally so, but they would be directly affected by this. How would you justify your vote to those people?
You think it is? You think it's a man?
Well, number one, in the House of Representatives, the Republicans don't need my vote to pass a bill that they want to pass. If they want my vote, they're going to have to they're going to have to go with the demands that we put forth to help change what's going on with DHS and ICE. If we want to talk about consequences, Alex Preddy, Renee Nicole Good, people who are being shot and killed across this country, and our neighbors who are being terrorized in our communities as we speak. Those are the consequences about of the recklessness of DHS and ICE right now. And House Democrats.
Listen, CNN as a whole is corrupt. CNN as a whole is corrupt. But we got to get it from all angles, though.
Democrats are using our power and the power of the purse to say enough is enough. The people have spoken. We see poll after poll that people say this administration have gone way too far as it relates to this. I don't call it mass deportation. It's a mass kidnapping campaign of our own neighbors. And so we're representing our constituents by saying, no, we know that through the big, beautiful bill that they passed to give ICE essentially unlimited amounts of resources and give huge tax breaks to billionaires at the cost of healthcare for working people.
They're trying to, that's the thing though. And here's the thing. They're going to try to leverage this entire situation off of these two officers. They're going to try to leverage the entire situation to try to overthrow ICE and get them up out of there. Listen, bro, I'm telling you now, this is exactly what they're trying to do, but I'm going to continuously keep saying it. All of this shit is a cover-up, dog. All of this shit is a cover-up for what Tim Walz is over there doing, what the Mayor Frey is over there doing, when they was what happened to the conversation about the fraud that was happening over there with the Somalis? What happened to that conversation? What happened to that conversation? We haven't heard anything about what has been going on. Nothing. Nick Shirley went over there. He highlighted, he shined the light on what's going over there with the fraud, with the Somalis. And after that, next thing you know, you hear about Renee Good, and then they deep dive into Alex Preddy, and then they're talking about the whole sit-in and targeted all this shit. It's like, hey man, come on, fam. What we doing? What we doing? All right, so let's go to this next video.
Top story here at 5. The Department of Justice is now investigating whether 2 ICE agents lied under oath about the shooting of a Venezuelan man in North Minneapolis last month. Those agents have now been put on administrative leave.
And this comes as the criminal charges in that case were just dropped. Prosecutors say the agent's story did not line up with the evidence.
And as Fox 9 investigator Nathan O'Neill explains, this is just the latest case to fall apart.
These dramatic scenes in North Minneapolis erupted last month after a man was shot in the leg during an encounter with immigration officers. But the narrative laid out by the feds has now unraveled in federal court. Within hours of the shooting, the Department of Homeland Security posted this, claiming its officer was being ambushed.
So at 6:05, so I'm gonna read this entire thing for y'all. I don't know if y'all can see it or not, but I'm gonna read it out for you. So it says, matter of fact, let me big the screen for y'all real quick. So it says at 6:50 p.m. CT Central Time, federal law enforcement officers were conducting a targeted traffic stop in Minneapolis of an illegal alien from Venezuela who was released into the country by Joe Biden in 2022. In an attempt to evade arrest, the subject fled the scene in his vehicle and crashed into a parked car. The subject then fled on foot. The law enforcement officer caught up to the subject on foot and attempted to apprehend him when the subject began to resist, violently assault the officer. While the subject and law enforcement were in a struggle on the ground, 2 subjects came out of a nearby apartment and also attacked the law enforcement officer with a snow shovel and broom handle. As the officer was being ambushed and attacked by 2 individuals, the original subject got loose and began striking the officer with a shovel or broomstick. Fearing for his life and safety as he was being ambushed by 3 individuals, the officer fired a defensive shot to defend his life. The initial subject was hit in the leg. All 3 subjects ran back into the apartment and barricaded themselves inside. The attacked officer and subject are both in the hospital. Both attackers are in custody. This attack on another brave member of law enforcement took place while Minnesota's top leaders, Governor Walz and Mayor Frey, are actively encouraging and organized resistance to ICE and federal law enforcement officers. Their hateful rhetoric and resistance against men and women who are simply trying to do their jobs must end. Federal law enforcement officers are facing a 1,300% increase in assaults against them as they put their lives on the line to arrest criminals and lawbreakers. Interesting. But here's my question though, y'all. Here's my ultimate question. Where's the video footage? Because see, now listen, I try my best to stay away from the conspiracy theories, but I gotta ask the question, where's the footage? We got footage immediately when it came to Renee Good. We got footage immediately when it came to Alex Pretty. Everything came within days, within hours. We got the body cam footage. We got people with their phones out. So you mean to tell me nobody got this footage? Nobody. Because now what I'm about to say is gonna look like I'm defending ICE and I'm defending this situation. But I gotta be objective in the things that I'm saying right now. So hear me clearly. If these officers are guilty, let me preface it. If these officers are guilty, these ICE agents are guilty, right? They need to go to jail. Right? So I'm gonna say that. However, they were quick to put out footage with Alex Pretty, Renee Good. Where's the footage? Now you're gonna lean down the path of believing these niggas are paid actors. They are going to lead me to believe that these motherfuckers were hired to try to frame ICE as the problem. So they need to come out with the footage. We need to see the body cam footage. We need to see anything that somebody may have had their phone out. Everybody always got their phone out at nighttime, midday, morning time. Everybody got their phone out and they're always recording. You telling me nobody got no footage? Nobody. Not one person. Listen, fam. I was born, but I wasn't born yesterday. That's all I'm gonna say. I was born, but I was not born yesterday.
And attacked by men with a shovel or broomstick. Prosecutors later filed criminal charges against Alejandro Alhorna and Julio Sosa Solis, initially accusing them of aiding and abetting and assaulting a federal officer. But nearly a month later, the U.S. Attorney from Minnesota asked a federal judge to dismiss the charges outright, saying newly discovered evidence, including surveillance video, is, quote, materially inconsistent with the allegations.
When somebody other than the agents has to look at evidence and decide whether an assault happened, in the vast majority of situations, they're deciding, no, there's no evidence of an assault.
It's the latest case to unravel as the Trump administration repeatedly claims that its immigration officers are under attack.
Officers have been violently and aggressively assaulted.
But the Fox 9 investigators reviewed more than 100 cases where people were arrested, accused of attacking an immigration officer, but we found most of them don't hold up. In many of those cases, federal prosecutors either declined to bring charges, those charges were later dismissed because of insufficient evidence, or they failed to convince a grand jury that there was a crime actually committed. And in one case, a federal judge in Chicago wrote that the government, quote, swung and missed multiple times.
We have a number of demonstrably false claims where judges have found that Homeland Security agents were making misrepresentations about assaults.
Back here in Minnesota, the defense attorneys representing those two men called the dismissal of those charges extraordinary. And their families welcomed the move, saying, quote, the charges against them were based on lies by an ICE agent who recklessly shot into their home through a closed door. The family is now calling for those ICE agents to be charged. For the Fox 9 investigators, I'm Nathan O'Neill.
So Chad, let me ask y'all a question then. Do y'all think it's real? Do y'all think it's real? Or do you think they're paid actors to pretend as if they were ICE? I'm just saying, listen, I'm not saying I want to be clear about this. I'm very objective about this. Do you think that these are paid actors? We don't have video footage of the actual event. We don't have body cam footage. We don't have any recordings from any cameras from anybody who potentially had their phone out. We don't have any of that. Because if they are guilty, they need to go to jail. 110%. I'm talking about the ICE agents. If they are guilty of this, they need to go to jail. But if this is a setup to make it seem as if these are ICE agents, then that's a whole different conversation. So I'm gonna ask y'all, what do y'all think? I'm gonna leave it there. Just let me know. Let me know what y'all think about this. I'm curious to know. I am curious to know what it is that y'all think about this. Listen, I don't know. From the information I'm gathering here, I don't know. I'm going to be 110% honest with y'all. But hey, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe for the algorithm. And make sure you hit the bell notification.